Today we are privileged to have a very strong advocate of Holy Church in our midst. This man is the power behind the throne here in the Archdiocese of Seattle. His influence is second only not to the Archbishop, but to the Archbishop's secretary. This man knows how to apply all the numbers. He knows what's what and who's who across our Archdiocese. And I had to pull a few favors and get special permission in order to have him come and advocate for the Archdiocesan Annual Catholic Appeal. He's none other than Frank Feeman. He is the Chief Financial Officer of the Archdiocese of Seattle. He has been so since 2012 after retiring as a partner of Price Waterhouse and Coopers. Frank himself is married with a family of 7 kids. He's a graduate of Seattle U. He lives in North Seattle, and I've had the privilege of working with him for a good number of years, first with the Fulcrum Foundation as a founding trustee, and now as we sit together on the Archdiocesan Finance Council. In fact, Frank and I have spent the past year laboring over a new benefit for priests in the Archdiocese. And at one point, we were going back and forth over the numbers, and I felt as though he was treating me like an ignorant pastor, and I was treating him like a disgruntled parishioner. But by the work of the Holy Spirit, we had an epiphany, and we came to see as God sees, as what God wants and God's will. And it's God's will that we participate wholly in the work of the Archdiocese of the Annual Catholic Appeal. And Frank is here today to help tell us and share with us how that can be done. Frank?
Good morning. Can you hear me? New microphone. I always like to be sure that folks can hear me. Father Freitag, thanks for that gracious introduction. I listen to how he describes me, and I wonder that I'm not taller or something, but I've always been a little short and a little bit slow. Father Freitag talked about calling in favors for me to be here. That's not exactly right. I want to tell you a secret about him that some of you may know, but some of you may not. You know, before he was called to the priesthood, Father Freitag, like me, was an accountant. And we had an arrangement that went like this. He didn't do accounting and I didn't do homilies, but as he said, in this last year we had to do some projects together. So the only favor he had to call in was to say, okay, it's time for you to step up now. I did some accounting, so you better come and talk to my congregation. He's right. My job is to advocate for parishes, and really what we do at the Archdiocese and what our job is to make sure that parishes throughout our 30,000 square miles and 173 parishes and missions can bring the good news to the people of God. But I am here to talk to you about the Annual Catholic Appeal. And the Annual Catholic Appeal is here because although we are 173 parishes, there are some things that we do together very well. And there are things that we can accomplish very well. My wife Deanne and I have been parishioners at St. John the Evangelist Church in Greenwood for 40 years. I am a convert. I've been Catholic for 39 years, but I went through RCIA in 1978. So hopefully I did the math correctly. I wanted to and will in a moment talk to you about how our family has benefited from some of the ministries of the Annual Catholic Appeal that are funded by the Annual Catholic Appeal. But I also wanted to poll you and find out how those ministries have touched you here at St. Monica's. So let me ask, how many of you have children or were participants in CYO athletics? Quite a few. How about Catholic school? How many have attended or have children attending Catholic school? A very important thing we do as an archdiocese is form priests and fund the formation of deacons and also provide for the retirement of women religious and for our priests in the Archdiocese. This is a loaded question, but how many of you appreciate Deacon Frank and Father Freitag being here in your parish? As do I. As do I. I'm always getting a strong vote on that one. It's 2 masses, and you're doing just fine, Father Freitag. I took a look at your website and the bulletin, and there's a lot going on here as you minister to people at St. Monica. I noticed that the Friends of the Needy program provides meals, some 300 a week, to homeless folks. Qualifications for that are you have to be able to chop and talk at the same time. And my wife says most of the time I'm qualified. I know you have an active St. Vincent de Paul chapter. There's the Monica's Table program, Project Gabriel, and a number of other parish ministries. So it's good for me to be here and join you at St. Monica's this weekend. Recently I heard Archbishop Sarton describe what it was like to be a missionary in the South, a Catholic missionary in the South, a missionary church. And he was describing a situation in which most of the Christians are Southern Baptists, and their congregations centered, as his description, the Southern Baptists. If you ask them where they are from, they would say, I'm from First Baptist or Second Baptist or one of those churches. As Catholics, we're called to be part of a congregation, but we're also called to be part of our Archdiocese and to minister to the world. We're called to be universal, to serve the wider world. This is one of the messages of the annual Catholic Appeal. There are things that we can do that we have to do together. I was going to share a couple of examples of how the ministries of the Archdiocese and the church in Western Washington have touched our family. And the first one is a story about a CYO soccer game a long time ago now, involving my son Tim when he was 5 or 6 years old. It was a co-ed team playing on a small field, not unlike what's set up on the grass right outside your church here. Makeshift goals made with PVC pipe and some netting. And Tim is a very good athlete and was a very good soccer player at a young age. And our side was really clobbering the other one as this game was going on. The goalkeeper for the opponents was a little girl. She was there in goal, still trying to figure out exactly what she was doing. You can picture her. She had goalie gloves that were too big for her hands, and she was in there doing her best. And for some reason, the referee called a handball in the box on our opponent's teams, and there was a penalty kick to be made. And our team chose my son Tim to take this penalty kick. And so he lined up, here's the little girl in the goal, and he got ready to shoot this penalty kick, wound up, and gently tapped the ball to her so she could make the save. Nobody had coached him to do that. He was realizing, as we all should, that it wasn't just about him, it's about other people and what we can do for him. And that's a value that I saw very early in my family's life that came from being involved in the Catholic Church and CYO athletics. It's a story that still is very powerful for me, and I'm very proud of Tim for that. More recently, at our parish in St. John in Greenwood, we're being served by Father Crispin Okoth, who is a priest from Mombasa, Kenya. He's a wonderful priest. We're very blessed to have him, and he's present because the wider church has made him available to us. And without him, we might not have a priest at St. John. So I can say that our family's been touched by our parish, our archdiocese, and the wider church, and I'm sure that's true for your families as well. Your support is critically important to the success of the annual Catholic Appeal and the more than 60 ministries it serves. It funds the formation of priests, the care of priests in retirement, seminarian programs, deacon programs, Catholic community services, schools, CYO, hospital and prison ministries, and retirement contributions for women religious. Today, I'm asking all of you to join my wife, Deanne, and me in making a pledge or a one-time gift to the annual Catholic Appeal. The reason is not just because the church has a need, which it does, and not just because the causes are worthy, and they are, but especially because this is part of what it means to be Catholic. This year's goal for the appeal is $11.7 million. Your goal here at St. Monica's is $250,000, $193,000 of which applies to the Archdiocesan goal. Based on the thermometer in the lobby, I think you're already at the $70,000 mark, so you're off to a very good start. Usually, St. Monica's exceeds its goal. Any amounts that are collected beyond the annual appeal goal are returned to the parish, and I understand your plan is to use any excess to fund sidewalk repairs, enlarging your walk-in freezer, and some repairs and refinishing to some of the hallways in the school. So your contribution to the appeal is a twofer. It benefits the parish as well as the work of the wider church. The annual appeal is a beautiful, tangible way to give back to our archdiocesan region. Sometimes it's not clear who's giving it, and sometimes it's not clear who's receiving it, but we all need it. We are one body living in a world that needs our help. We are the church that needs to work together to be the change the world needs. Your gifts make all of this possible. There are pledge envelopes at the ends of the pews. Perhaps the people on the ends can pass them down. There are pencils. While I finish up, you can begin thinking about your gift. Please know that gifts of any amount are welcome. If you're not doing so already, I would ask you to consider a gift of $1 a day. If you're already giving at that level, consider contributing 1% of your annual income. You can make pledges one time or over a period of months. And one of the goals that Father has for this year's appeal is for the participation of the parishioners at St. Monica to increase. So for those who haven't, we'd ask that you take a step. I'd like everybody to take a few moments now to commit to the annual Catholic Appeal. If you're unable to financially give, please fill out an envelope and write in that you're offering a prayer, and we're grateful for that. It also lets us know that you're participating, and we thank you for that, and will prevent you from receiving follow-up calls and mailings and the like. Remember that every dollar given above the total goal is returned to St. Monica's. Keep in mind that a number of employers match the appeal, and ask your employer if they have a matching program. Thanks for your generosity. Our church is here in times of need, providing a future full of hope. Along with Father Freitag, I want to thank you today in advance for your support of the annual Catholic Appeal. The choice in making a difference in our Archdiocese and St. Monica is yours. Thank you for saying yes to God's call to be present in our lives.